Welcome, guys. Today I'm going to break down all of the insights I know about life, business, and health and relationships. It's going to be quite a long video, and I'm probably going to make a whole lot of cuts, but just getting straight into it, it's probably not going to make a whole lot of sense because I've literally just put everything on a big pile. But I just wanted to make this video to give all of the knowledge I have, because I believe, maybe it sounds egotistical, but I believe I have a lot of really valuable knowledge for people. Like, genuinely, I could solve a lot of people's problems, but yeah, people do need to know about it, or people do need to know about me as well. And since I don't want to put my head on huge billboards and start screaming on the street like, I can help you solve your problems, I'd rather just record a video with all of the insights I know. You can see with life, it's a whole lot more than with business, with health, or relationships, especially relationships. But we'll get to that in a second. First insight: everything is energy. So I'm not going to break each insight down because that would require literally probably 24 hours of my time. But if you are curious, you can look up something which I think they did an actual study on, which is everything is energy. The scientific proof that everything is energy in reality isn't real. Obviously, it's not hard proof, because if you were to seriously hard proof everything's energy, then so many things would change. But yeah, kind of reality is not really prone to giving away its secrets. So you have to kind of go through this with an open mind. But the basic point is that everything is energy. So basically, your thoughts are energy, your body's energy, your actions are energy, the tree you see outside is energy, the people you interact with are energy, I don't know, whatever you eat is energy, everything is basically energy. Second one is reality is like a mirror. So if you realize that pretty much everything you've been doing and thinking up until this point is an exact alignment with the reality you have. Meaning, if you act with pressure, then reality is going to pressure you. If you think your life is hard, now guess what? Your life is probably hard. If you think that everything is easy and fun and you have a lot of money and you are rich and you can do anything, then your reality is probably that you have a lot of money, you can do anything, and you're rich. But if you generally look at your thoughts and you look at your actions, and these two actually make up the overarching thing, so I'm going to draw with this. So if you look at your actions and your thoughts, which make up together something which we call attitude, then you can see that your attitude to your life creates your reality. So almost exactly in alignment. Definitely exactly in alignment, only with time. So if you feel bad today, maybe your reality is not bad today, but it might be bad tomorrow, in 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. So your attitude literally reflects in your reality. So try this out. Be conscious of your attitude and see what happens. Secondly, you are your attention. You are not your body. You are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. You are not your results. You are not your past. You're not your future. You're not your MacBook. You're not your Chrome browser. You're not your games. You're not your relationships. You're not your girlfriend. You're not your money. You're not your income. You're your attention. You are the concentration of awareness that is focused probably always on your own body and your own reality, but you're actually able to take it out. So you are your attention. People talk about presence, people talk about being and stuff like this, but the main point is that you are your attention. You are not, the actual identity doesn't exist. Might be hard to understand if you're not spiritual, but this is just an insight. Where you put your attention creates your reality. So this insight flows into the next. Where you put your attention creates your reality. So usually your attention is focused on your character, or the body, as I call it, the character, and the reality. So obviously it makes sense why you keep experiencing the same reality, because your attention is focused on the same reality. The second point, the past and the future don't exist yet. So Eckhart Tolle talks about this in his book, The Power of Now, but it's true. You have to get out of a logical state of mind in order to understand some of these insights, especially this one, because your mind is going to say the past does exist because yesterday I did this. We know yesterday. And you can also say the future does exist because in an hour I have a meeting. So you say the mind says yes, the past and future do exist. But if you objectively look at your reality right now, do you see the past? Do you see the future? No, they're not here. They're not here because they exist only in your mind. So they don't actually exist. And there's another insight which I think I have later, but it's basically that the past changes when you look at it. And the future doesn't even exist at all. So it doesn't matter. Objectively, these don't exist, but the mind obviously can't see that. Now, there's only the present, the here and the now. That's basically, these two go together. So there's only literally the present, the material present in the here and now. That's the only thing that actually objectively exists. So for example, I'm speaking right now in this video. When I go back tomorrow and rewatch the video is still there, but that's not because I recorded the video today that's still there, but it's because the video still exists in the reality tomorrow. Might be a little bit strange. You have a heart, a mind, and a soul. I'm just going to go through this a little bit quicker. Heart basically refers to the subconscious mind. Mind refers to the conscious mind, and the soul refers to the spirit, to the higher self, however you want to call it. You have all of these three things, and in my opinion, the main thing to strive for is to achieve unity between heart, mind, and spirit or soul. So achieve unity between your subconscious, your conscious, and your soul. Good example of this. If you started going and building a new habit, or you start, for example, going to the gym or exercising for the first time, then you're probably going to feel resistance. The resistance is because your heart is not used to it. Your subconscious, because the subconscious communicates through feelings, the subconscious is not used to it, is scared maybe of it, is not really comfortable with it. So therefore, people that start going to the gym in January quit by March because they keep resisting going. Because they think it's not me, it's not part of my identity, I don't feel comfortable. The reason is not because it's true, the reason is because their subconscious or their heart is not comfortable with it yet. That's probably because they have forced themselves to do something, which is another insight. Like if you force yourself to do something, sooner or later it's going to get the opposite. So if you force yourself to eat a really healthy diet, sooner or later you're going to probably enter a really unhealthy diet. Because force towards the heart is extremely destructive. Happiness, success, and fulfillment are either here right now or not at all. So if you think that a goal will make you happy, successful, or fulfilled, then it's absolutely not true. It's an illusion. Because, as I said before, there's only the present here and now. The past and future don't exist objectively. So if you think that happiness is coming, success is coming, I'm sorry to tell you that it's not coming. This is also why I personally set the main goal in my life towards the path. So the actual reality I have day to day, the path I'm walking, that's my main goal. Because I understand that happiness, success, and fulfillment are either here right now or not at all. Which means that I will never achieve happiness, success, and fulfillment in the future, only in the here and now. So why would I delay it if I can do it here and now? Then another one, huge one, all thoughts are resistance. And I'm actually going to make some of these bold, which I think are the most useful for you to understand. So everything is energy is obviously probably one of the first ones. Reality is like a mirror, is definitely one of the first ones that reflects your attitude. You are your attention, definitely one that deserves to be highlighted. Where you put your attention creates reality as well. There's only the present here now. I think that's an important one. You have heart, mind, so I think that's an important one. And that's pretty much it. So all thoughts are resistance. Let's continue. So what I mean is that if you have a thought, you're basically resisting something. You're resisting a feeling, you're resisting an action, you're resisting something inside of reality. Observe this the next time you have a thought. Observe it. Probably while, for example, you're exercising, while you're walking, you're thinking of something, but behind this thought is a resistance to something else. So it might be a resistance to a fear you have. So for example, if you fear money or you fear being poor, then as soon as I speak about this, you're probably going to think about other things. You're going to become distracted. You're going to get feelings like, I don't want this. Because your mind is a very intelligent, or your brain is a very intelligent organ. Which means that anything that it sees as fearful, as dangerous to survival, is going to kind of hide. It's going to cover up in thoughts. And thoughts are basically the resistance to discovering what is true. I realized this when I was letting go of a lot of emotions, like last week. I realized that every time I had specific thoughts, it was just a resistance of a feeling that was stuck. And my mind wanted to cover up the feeling, the thing I needed to do with thoughts. So I hope that makes sense. Then thoughts is meta reality. So what I mean is that thoughts is Your thoughts are just a reality that doesn't exist yet. So a potential reality. As soon as you start to make this switch in your mindset, holy shit, like things are really going to shift. Because the next time you think about a project that you think is not going to work out, you have to realize that you're just imagining a reality where the project doesn't work out. So as soon as the project doesn't work out, it's like, duh, of course it doesn't work out, because all you have been thinking or creating in your mind is the reality where the project doesn't work out. So be very careful of what you think, because it will become a future reality. It's kind of a reality yet to be manifested or to be realized. Your mind cannot think, it grabs thoughts with a frequency like a radio. So what I mean with this, and let me really quickly grab some water, is that your mind is not able to actually produce thoughts intelligently, but it kind of grabs thoughts with a frequency like a radio. So sometimes when you are doing something, you get like random thoughts, like random stuff popping into your mind. And the thing is that these thoughts, because I explained to you that thoughts are meta-reality, these are not actually like you could say prerequisites or like predetermined actions. So for example, if you think about, for example, like I just did, grabbing a mug or grabbing a water bottle, then it's not the thought that initiates this. It's something else. The thought is just a byproduct. The thought is just an afterwards resistance of what is yet to come. So the next time you have specific thoughts, question your state, which I will talk about later. Question how you feel, and you'll probably see that the thoughts you have are pretty much in alignment with how you feel. So if you are really, really happy, then the thoughts you have are going to be much more happy. If you're really, really sad, the thoughts you have are going to be much more sad. This is not because the thoughts is what you think and what is happening in the reality at the moment, but it's because your thoughts are kind of grabbed like a radio with a specific frequency. Now, another one, ask questions. Pretty much you can get an answer to everything if you ask the question. Try ridiculous questions. I think I had like a question booklet where I asked like a bunch of crazy questions like, could we live forever, or like reversing aging? And I actually found specific people that talked about reversing aging. Not specifically about living forever, but really try and just really ask yourself, for example, what would my life look like if everything was easy and if I was already successful? Because this gets you thinking in a different mindset. Ask yourself questions like, if I had to build a $1 billion company right now from my dorm room, using everything I have, and make it so it's an enjoyable process every day, and I only have to work 4 hours per day. Something crazy like that, and you probably get an answer. It's just about how crazy. The crazier the question, the crazier the answer. The more thoughtful the question, the more thoughtful the answer. Another one, where attention goes, energy flows. So this is kind of, I think I already mentioned this, but where you put your attention is what creates your reality, because where attention goes, energy flows. I actually have proof of this now, because I'm able to control my energy flows and my attention as well. So if I put my attention, for example, in my hand, I can increase the blood flow of my hand, because my attention goes towards the hand. I literally feel that energy is going towards my hand because my attention goes towards the hand, so the energy goes towards the hand. And as another side note, blood actually goes to the hand. The subconscious is more powerful than the conscious. So pretty much any type of action is, I think, 90% subconscious or not conscious, and 10% conscious. So I don't necessarily use this myself anymore. I'm not going to go into right now why, but for most people, 90% of their behavior is unconscious, is subconscious, which means that if you're going to make a change in your reality, conscious won't do. If you feel unworthy and you try to work yourself to becoming worthy, it's not going to work, because your subconscious is the master of your reality. If you subconsciously believe that money is difficult to make, that rich people are evil, that money is scarce, if you subconsciously truly, rudely believe this, then any efforts to making money will be in vain. any efforts to becoming rich will be in vain, because your subconscious is 90% more powerful and it's always going to prove itself right. So pay attention to this also when building habits. The reason you build habits, and the reason that habits are so powerful, is because habits come from the subconscious. And all of these books, like for example Atomic Habits, talk about the power of habits. It's not because necessarily like the thing of habits is powerful, but it's because the subconscious is so powerful, and the subconscious uses habits because it's pretty much automatic. Another one, don't put all of your eggs in one basket. So if you have a decision you want to make, or if you, for example, have a project you're working on, a few projects, and you suddenly move everything to one project, it's going to make things a lot more difficult. And by the way, let me see if there were any insights right here which I think are worth bolding. I think this one is definitely worth bolding. Questions. I think the subconscious, not necessarily, but I will talk about that later. So don't put all of your eggs in one basket, should be clear enough. Awareness solves problems, not a reason. A huge one. I'm actually going to bold this. You have to understand that everything is simple as well. And I think I have a later one here. But when you usually have a problem and you try and think about a solution, you are wasting a lot of energy. Because usually if you just become aware of what's happening, you become aware of what you're doing, of what is actually the problem. Like truly, if you think you have a problem right now, become clear on what you think the problem actually is. And you will see that as soon as you try to ask, for example, questions to identify the problem, it will become clear because you have raised your awareness. It's not that the problem is suddenly identified by your brilliant logical mind. No, it's because you have become aware of what the problem actually is. And you probably have become aware that there isn't really a problem at all. Because if I were to ask you right now, if you think your problem is not having enough money, do you actually not have enough money? Like genuinely, what do you actually want with the money? If the money were to show up in your door, what would you actually do with it? And don't just give like a random answer, but be very specific about your answer. Because if you don't have a very specific answer to what you would spend your money and where and how and when, then obviously there's not going to be any money because you don't know what you're going to spend it on. So that's literally just awareness that solves the problems, not the reason. The next time you have a problem in your reality, try becoming aware instead of solving it with reason, and you will see that it will pretty much solve itself. It's more about letting go of resistance than effectively moving towards goals. So in this reality we live, there's a lot of stereotypes, a lot of social media stuff, and people talking about success, people talking about failure, people talking about working hard, people talking about obstacles, struggle, problems, effort, sacrifice, all of this bullshit. And you have to understand that letting go of this stuff is much more effectively towards moving, much more effectively than moving towards your goals. What I mean is, it's better to not have your foot on the brake than try and force the gas while having your foot on the brake. So if you have a car, and obviously people that don't drive a car won't notice, but if you do have a car, you will notice. This is a beautiful car. If you are putting your foot on the brake at 50% power and you're putting your foot on the gas 100% power, nothing is going to matter how hard you press this, because there is 50% brake. So you're always going to be limited. But as soon as you sort of remove the brake, so you stop the resistance, then your power is going to increase drastically. And it's obviously not like this with an actual car, like 50%, 100%. But what I mean is, getting rid of the resistance you have is so much more effective than trying to achieve something. Because otherwise you're always going to have to struggle. And why would you want to struggle if you can just let go of the resistance? Next one. Reality does nothing for you, it only responds to you. So if you wait for something, hope for something, nothing is going to be given. You have to initiate it first. So reality does help you. I'm not saying that. There is definitely, I believe, everything I'm saying here is just what I believe, by the way. There is definitely, I think, a higher power or like a reality that kind of orchestrates this system. But I believe it helps you only if you kind of claim that it helps you. If you decide that it helps you. But you don't have to wait for it, because it does nothing for you by itself. Stress is bad as fuck. So truly, a lot of problems are caused by stress, mental stress, physical stress. And physical stress just manifests from mental stress. So yeah, just understand that stress is not beneficial, if you think that stress is needed in work or health, or in health it might be a little bit of a different story, because some methods like cold showering, like contrast showering, like fasting are beneficial. Healthy stress in moderation is beneficial sometimes, but as far as any other stress, so when it comes to work, relationships, money, goals, fulfillment, purpose, movement, anything is basically bad as fuck. So too much stress when exercising is also not good, because you're going to strain and wear out your muscles. So pay attention to how much stress you engage in on a daily basis and remove what you don't need. Let's see if there's any like things I can bold. Probably not. You're a unique person. So there's so many people on Earth. There's so many different species, different plants, different trees, different animals, but everyone is unique. Every single one. So it's so important that you embrace this, and not just in the sense like embrace your uniqueness and love yourself. Yeah, obviously love yourself. But what I mean is truly embrace the fact that you are unique. Truly embrace the fact that you as one person have unique qualities no one else has. You have a combination of qualities no one else has. You have abilities no one else has. You have an appearance no one else has. So you don't have to compare yourself to others, which is kind of another lesson in itself. But I think embracing uniqueness and really going deeper into it, leaning into your uniqueness, is truly a super beneficial and powerful thing to do. For example, just take some personality tests. See, for example, if you go to 16personalities.com, you can actually test your personality. I shifted from an ISTJ to an INFJ, by the way, so it's possible to change your personality as well. I became a lot more intuitive. Yeah, this is my results basically. I'm pretty much, I aim to be as much in the middle as possible, because that's so much fun, but to kind of have the strength of both sides. But embracing your uniqueness is going to be the most fun thing for you as well. Because if you are very introverted, but you are talking yourself into, I have to go out to the club and be with other people, like I have to do this and blah, 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 then you're going to feel resistance, because your heart is like, I would just want to do something meaningful on my own. Or if you are, for example, quite assertive and you're holding yourself back from being assertive, then you're also going to feel resistance. So just embracing your unique qualities, maybe the unique hobbies you have, all of this is going to be very beneficial. We are all one, so this is a very sudden spiritual insight. Essentially, you cannot understand this with logic, because like logic would say, no, we're not one because everything is different. This is literally what I'm saying here. But like spiritual awareness will prove that this is true. Okay, so because you are your attention, and because like attention is what you are, the concentration of awareness, that's the reason why we are all one. So everything is basically the same, is made of the same stuff. It's made of awareness, it's made of energy. Everything is made of the same stuff. I won't cover this right now. It doesn't make sense to speak about this. It makes sense to feel this. Think big, act small. So basically, you can pretty much achieve anything, is what I believe. Once again, like obviously, just take this with a grain of salt. This is just what I'm saying, what I firmly believe. So if you listen to this video, don't accept everything immediately. Just see what you think could be beneficial. Anyway, think big, act small. What I mean is that big results are achieved in small daily actions. You don't have to necessarily make huge changes to get huge results. It's just like an accumulation of small changes that lead to big results. So the past has changed when you look at it. I covered this before. How you do one thing is how you do everything. Super powerful. If you, for example, exercise without attention, with distraction, then your work is going to be without attention, with distraction. It seems like your brain, because you are, once again, you are not your brain necessarily, you are not your body. So your brain kind of uses the same programs for everything. It doesn't have like a specific program, for example, that says drinking water on time is different from calling a client, for example. So it uses the same program. Don't compare yourself to others. So as I talked about before, you're unique. So compare yourself to others makes no sense. If you have an apple and you have a pear, Why in the hell would you compare these? Only maybe because they're fruits, both of them, but outside of that, like, it doesn't make sense. So don't compare yourself to others in anything, even if you want to, even if it feels easy, even if it makes you feel better or if it makes you feel worse. Don't fall into the trap. Life is movement. Life is movement. Everything moves. Everything moves. Everything is always going in a direction ahead. So if you don't move, then there's nothing. There's no life, basically. Energy loves movement. Okay, we continue. So I did a quick change of clothes. Now it's obviously quite a lot of time difference between the first video and second video. But anyway, energy loves movement. So basically, energy doesn't come towards you until you start to move. It's kind of strange because you would think that you need energy to move, but you first need to move to get energy. So it's kind of strange. But the general kind of point is that when you start moving, energy joins you along the way. But if you cannot move, it's because you don't have enough energy. So it's kind of paradoxical. You have to start moving first, even if it's just crawling, literally. Everything is found along the way. This is a huge one, which I'm actually going to highlight in bold. And as well, life is movement is a huge one. So basically what I mean is everything is found along the way. The goals are found along the way. The solutions to problems are found along the way. Everything is found while moving because life is movement. So usually just thinking about solutions is a waste of time. Thinking about goals is sometimes a waste of time, but most of these things will be found along the way. So set an intention to find your goal and then move, and then the goal will be found. Set an intention to solve a specific problem and then start moving and the problem will be solved. It's kind of a different way of life, which I am still adapting to be honest. But it's kind of the philosophy of everything is found along the way. You kind of act without really knowing what is going on. It's very unpredictable, but it's a really good way of life, in my opinion. Gratitude. So being grateful is, in my opinion, also one of the most important things. Although I'm not going to highlight it because it's not necessarily a lesson. It's just something which is very important to, I guess you could say, tune yourself to really high vibrations and frequencies. There's something called the vibrational chart, which does a very good job of explaining the different frequencies and emotions. So if you look at, for example, somewhere like fear or anger is quite low, but then something like love or gratitude could be quite high. So it's very essential. Next, intention creates reality, not thoughts. So have you ever had a thought, but you ignored the thought and you just did it anyway? That's because your thoughts do not really create reality, but your intention does. So what I mean with this is that if you think about stuff, it will have an influence on your reality, definitely. Like people say thoughts create reality, but that's not true. Intention creates reality. So if your intention is stronger than the thoughts, then your intention is going to create a reality. But if it's not, then obviously the thoughts are going to create a reality. But you have to know intention creates reality. What is intention? Well, describing this is quite vague because it's not something that can be explained, but it's kind of, you have to think about when you lift something with your hand, for example, like a cup of water, what is it that actually lifts the cup? Like the actual force that lifts the cup. You would say it's your muscles, but then again, what powers your muscles? You would say it's you, but what powers you? What powers through you to lift up the cup? And that force that basically transforms thought into action is intention. So kind of the transformance of idea into action could be called intention. But there's more definitions. Next, you don't need confidence, doubt, fear, desire, worry, anxiety. So you don't actually need these. What I mean is in the literal sense of the word, that you do not need these emotions or feelings. Like as an objective point of view, these emotions, because this is what they are emotions. When you objectively look at the emotion, you don't actually need the emotion. So you might be doubtful about whether your goal is going to be achieved, or you might have fear around, you could say anxiety about not being worthy, or worry about not being worthy. But the emotion of worry, or the emotion of fear, or the emotion of doubt, for example, about achieving your goal, is not actually going to help you get towards the goal faster, does it? If you really think about it, this emotion doesn't help you in the process, so you don't need them. So get rid of them, is the point. By the way, let me just remove this timer. Importance creates obstacles. So the more important things become, the more difficult they become, and the less easy it is for you. Because when you grow up as well, so usually when you're like a child, everything is easy, fun, and playful, because you don't give things much importance. You see everything as play. But as adults, you start to take things more seriously, like talking about stuff like money, like work, like tasks, like duties, all of these things, and things become a lot more serious. And nothing really changed between the child and the adult, truly. Truly nothing objectively, once again I'm talking about objective reality, nothing changed objectively for these childs becoming adults. The only thing that changed is their perception. And their perception turned from play to serious. And the more serious, the more importance. Because nothing is really serious without importance. So something is serious because you give it importance, in other words. So if you think that money is serious, you have to seriously make money, all of this stuff, it's because you think money is important. You cannot think something is serious without thinking it's important, okay? Next, all emotions create energetic blocks. The reason that importance creates obstacles is because importance creates an energetic block. So energy flows freely, always. There's no plus or minus amount of energy. There's not a lot of energy, there's not a little energy. Energy is just energy, and energy is infinite. And emotions block this flow of energy. So the reason that fear, for example, makes you feel extremely, you could say like vulnerable and stuff like this, and not able to act, because usually when you're in intense fear or intense anxiety, then you cannot act. Like it feels almost impossible. And that's because these emotions create an energetic block. So it's not because it's actually impossible to act, because it's definitely possible. Like if you fear something, like you can still do this with your hand. But the emotion itself creates a block that prevents you from seeing things clearly and acting clearly. So how I usually envision this is you have like a pipe of energy flowing through your body, and when you have an emotion, there's like a block here, like a cork, which blocks the flow of free energy. And by the way, I draw two directions because there's an ascending current and a descending current. But when there's an emotion, something like fear, there's an energetic block and the flow of energy is disturbed. And in order to get it back, because without clear energy flow, things literally become, or not literally, but the emotion makes you believe it is literally harder. But it's not actually harder. Because once again, you don't need these emotions. They only get in the way. So understand that all of these emotions create an energetic block. So truly the best thing would be to just be an unemotional statue acting all the time without thoughts, without emotions. That would be the most ideal scenario, but that's not a very realistic scenario. So understand that emotions will come up, but what they do is they create an energetic block. Even positive deemed emotions, confidence for example, because confidence cannot exist without doubt. The absence of doubt is not confidence, if that makes sense. Like the absence of doubt is pure conviction. The absence of confidence is also pure conviction. But if there's doubt, there might be confidence. If there's confidence, there might be doubt. If you see what I mean. Next, energy flows freely through you. I already covered this. There's nearly an infinite amount of energy available. So because everything is energy, you are able to tap into pretty much an infinite amount of energy. The bottleneck is not the amount of energy available. Because it's almost infinite. But the bottleneck is how much you're able to carry. And this is determined by a couple of things, by what you believe, by your literally by your body. I think those are the primary things, as well as like your mental side. So like what limiting beliefs you have, or what obligations you give to yourself. I have some videos about this. Next, your heart already knows everything. So your heart, and I'm referring to heart, but you can also say the subconscious, already knows everything that existed, that will exist, that is going to happen, that is not going to happen. Your heart is basically this all-knowing, wise, genius, almost instrument. The problem is that perceiving it with the mind can be tricky, because the mind doesn't always want to listen, and it might be a little bit ambiguous, the kind of signs that the heart speaks, because the heart doesn't speak directly in words, because the heart feels and knows. Is the next point. Your heart feels and knows. If it feels bad, then it's just the heart thinks it's bad. So it's kind of like binaries. Either feels comfortable or it doesn't feel comfortable. And comfortable will be deemed positive, uncomfortable will be deemed negative. And you have a varying intensity of these. So the more comfortable, and you have very uncomfortable. And your heart doesn't reason. So if you, with your mind, have told yourself plenty of times that money is easy to make, then eventually your heart is going to accept that money is easy to make and is going to link positive feelings that money is easy to make, and it becomes easy to make. Not because the heart knows money, because the heart is like, what the hell is money? I have no idea. But the heart just accepts and feels and knows. Next, feel where the heart pulls you. Use the mind to steer. So the heart is very powerful. As I just explained, it knows everything already. It has the power to control 90% of your behavior. So it's very powerful. But the heart is really very chaotic as well. So you have to use the mind to make sure it goes in the right direction. Otherwise, it's probably going to take you in a bunch of different directions, and there's not going to be any order. So the mind is order, the heart is chaos. The mind is, by the way, the conscious mind. Next, stereotypes come from pendulums. Very extensive topic, but I will just cover it briefly. Pendulums are energy structures that evolve as a result of people thinking and acting in the same way. So when you have like football teams or like music groups, you probably observe as well that when these events occur, there's like this energy, and you start to think about it. Maybe you start to think differently about stuff. Maybe you become a little bit more like crazy, or like when there's a football game, you become a lot more angry than usual. That's not because you change, but that's because the pendulum that is behind this team or behind this music group is at play. Because a lot of people think and act in the same way, so the energy structure called a pendulum evolves. You can almost envision something like this, like a lattice work of energy which is connected, and this pendulum is able to like almost impose thoughts on you. So put thoughts in your nearby area, and as I already told you before, your brain is like a perceiver of thought. So you're able to perceive the thought of the pendulum, and you mistakenly think that it's your own thought, and then you accept it, and the pendulum basically controls you, which is why stereotypes are a thing. So if you, for example, work in the entrepreneurial space or like have a business, there are entrepreneurs who are stereotypical, super disciplined and super rational, and wake up at 5 a.m. and they work 12 hours a day, and they don't like do anything but work and go to the gym and eat super healthy and sleep perfectly. That's a stereotype, and you probably have thought about this stereotype, like becoming it. You maybe have set the goal of becoming this. I know I set the goal of becoming this. I did become it, but it wasn't aligned with who I think I want to be. So there are also other stereotypes of people who are like super spiritual and like super conscious and like super aware, super natural, and I also don't belong to this group, because like this is just another stereotype again. So I don't want to meditate. I don't even meditate, truthfully, but I'm quite spiritual, I would say, but I don't necessarily intentionally sit down to meditate, although I might in a second because I just enjoy it, but not usually. So this is just another stereotype. Next, the faster the time between thought and action, the more effective the results. I'm sure you've heard this from people like Alex Hormozi, which is a big business guy. Literally in the sense, big business guy, and also because he made a lot of money. But the faster time between thought and action, the more effective the results, is just because thoughts are resistance, as I already explained. And by the way, let me actually highlight some of these things, because I haven't done anything with these. So everything's found along the way is very important. All motion, sprint, energetic block is very important. Your heart knows everything already is also very important. Feel where the heart pulls you is quite an important one, because sometimes you tend to use the mind to think like what to do. And even as I'm reading this, I probably should take a little bit more from this. But using the heart to feel what you have to do is much more effective, because you don't know what to do. If you already knew what to do to achieve your goal, you would already have achieved your goal. So it doesn't make sense. Awesome. So the faster time between thought and action, more effective results, basically refers to the fact that thoughts are resistance. So if you act and you do it in spite of resistance, or you first remove the resistance and then act, which I think is more effective, then you're just going to get faster results. It makes sense. Like, thinking is an action, but it doesn't do anything, because thoughts are not reality. Thoughts are potential reality. So spending time too much in a potential reality doesn't help you in the reality that much. So reality gives you exactly what you choose. So be clear and specific. I have encountered many examples of me choosing something and I got exactly what I chose, but it wasn't exactly what I want because I wasn't clear and specific enough. So as soon as you get clear and specific, it's like, bam, reality just gives you exactly what you want. Sometimes it does actually give you what you want, even though you didn't know you wanted it, which is another thing. So self-love is essential. Self-hatred is destructive. So your subconscious, once again, is very powerful. So if you don't love yourself, if you feel hatred for yourself, this hatred is going to express in your reality. So absolutely, loving yourself is super constructive and super beneficial, just because otherwise it's going to be very destructive. So I'm speaking from experience with this one. So definitely spend serious time loving yourself. And it doesn't have to be like, what do you think loving yourself is? Which is like eating a bunch of junk food and doing nothing. In my experience, like, loving yourself really comes when you are okay with who you are. And sure, you might treat yourself. For example, I ate some chocolate today because I really enjoy it sometimes. But outside of that, like, self-love is not what a lot of people say. So maybe even do some research into what you think self-love is. That's pretty much the point. Next, you cannot convince yourself of anything that isn't true. You can only pretend. This is absolutely, for me, like a big one, because I think that a lot of people who are into metaphysics, definitely, or like law of attraction, they try to convince themselves that they have a lot of money or that they have success, which is totally ineffective, because your mind, your rational mind, as well as the heart, both know that what you're trying to convince yourself of is not true. So if you have like $500 in your bank account, but you try to convince yourself you're rich, it's like, it's not going to work. It's like the evidence is in front of your eyes. So what you have to do instead is pretend. You have to tell your rational mind, look, mind, we have to pretend first, and then it will come, and then we can just have the result. We cannot convince the heart that it's true, because the heart will resist. So we cannot do that. We have to pretend, we have to act. This is something which the mind is capable of. So then what you do is you pretend, and then what happens is evidence shows up because this actually works. And then the mind is like, oh, damn, this actually works. And then you're like, oh, that's amazing. So next time you have a goal, pretend it's true. Then evidence will come of its realization. Either the actual goal itself is realized or the path is revealed. Both of these are evidence. And then you pretty much have confirmation. Next, your self-image state creates your reality. It's truly important and more powerful than intention. Once again, a huge one, like 3 in a row that are really cool. The reason your self-image or state creates your reality is, once again, because of the heart. So it's the feeling. Feeling is huge in creating your reality. You can have very destructive thoughts, but if you have very positive feelings, those will win. If you have very positive thoughts, or you try to have very positive thoughts, and you have very negative feelings, the negative feelings will win. If you don't believe you're worthy, if you don't feel worthy of your goal, then that's going to win and you're not going to get your goal. So pay attention to your state, to your emotional state, to your feelings, and your self-image is kind of in the same thing. So how you perceive yourself, the state which you perceive yourself to be. So do you perceive yourself to be happy, to be successful, to be a failure, to be worthy, to be unworthy? What do you perceive yourself to be? What's your state? Very important to ask yourself this a bunch of times during the day. And it's actually more powerful than intention. So what I've observed is that even though you act, despite the action, if you feel not worthy or if your self-image is not worthy, then none of the action is going to matter because the subconscious will win, always. So you have to change your state first. How do you change your state? I don't know, might have some points with this, but otherwise you have to pretend as well. So you have to pretend, for example, you're worthy, or you have to pretend that you're rich. because like, once again, you cannot convince yourself anything that isn't true. So these are really brilliantly structured, if I do say so myself. Anyway, lack of awareness is caused by living in denial. So if you have a problem where you are lacking awareness, lacking consciousness, and you cannot really figure out why, then it's probably because you're living in denial. So it's something that you secretly don't want to face or don't want to see. I'm not talking about like looking reality in the eye specifically very deeply, because that will create more problems, because reality doesn't like to be pressured. But the other side of this is living in complete denial, so not wanting to look at reality. Then reality is not going to give you any energy. So that's lack of awareness. Too much information confuses the brain and causes clouded consciousness. So I'm sure you have ever read something complicated, but there was so much information and you just kept reading and reading and reading, and eventually you just went so tired, and you could not think clearly, you could not see things clearly. This is because your consciousness at that point was like completely clogged, so you're not able to see things clearly, not because necessarily your brain is overloaded, but because your consciousness is clogged. So consciousness, as I explained earlier, is a secret to solving problems, seeing things clearly, being aware of problems, not reasoning. So if you clog your consciousness by overloading yourself with information, it's going to be a lot harder. Next, money is energy. You can attract it, but it's an earthly element. So obviously, because everything is energy, money is part of this equation. And which means you can attract it because it has a specific frequency, like everything. But it is an earthy element. So in the same way, you can attract it, but it's also an earthy element. So it doesn't really... There is a logical aspect to it, is what I'm trying to say here. Like, it's not completely passive. You do still have to like use logic. For example, if you want to make money, you obviously have to ask for it. That's like one thing. People are probably not going to give you it by default. Maybe sometimes they will. I have seen occurrences where this did happen. I have actually had occurrences where that did happen, but you do have to apply some logic. Next, overthinking is caused by inaction. So too much in the head is caused by too little in the reality. And how do you actually get present in the reality? It's usually through action. So if you are overthinking, you have to visualize these two extremes. On the one hand, there's thoughts, and on the one hand, there's like action. And if you are too much in the thoughts, you have to go too much in the action. And that's how it's going to balance out. So let's just start acting without thinking. Because if you try to act with thinking, it's not going to work if you're overthinking. Next, making efforts puts pressure on reality, and reality puts pressure on you. So reality is like a mirror, as I just explained, or just probably like 30 minutes ago. So making effort, because reality is a mirror, making effort to reality is going to cause reality making effort to you, which is basically the same as pressure. I'm using the word effort here, but truly like forcing could be a better word. So forcing reality, that reality is going to force you. So forcing anything, maybe like if you try to force to write something, if you try to force to speak something, if you try to force someone, then all of these things will come back. Next, what is not used atrophies. Huge one. And I'm actually seeing if I missed any of these. Not really. So obviously overthinking is caused by an action, could be an important one. But what is not used atrophies is also a huge one. Because there's either development or degradation in life. Life is movement. And it doesn't mean that life is just movement like this. It means that it's either up or down, because usually if it moves straight, it's moving down, because there's an element of entropy in nature. Maybe that's a little bit too much to explain for this video, and I don't know right now exactly how to explain it well, but the main point is that what is not used atrophies. This applies to muscles, this applies to your brain, to thinking. If you don't think critically enough, then your brain is going to degrade. This applies to creativity. If you don't engage in creative activities, then your creative abilities are going to decline. This applies to any practice, maybe even like meditation, like exercise, like work, concentration, focus, the body, all of this. Like if you were to lie in bed for 6 months without moving, then if you went out, your bones would probably crack. So just use what you want to have in your life continuously. So use your muscles, use your brain, use all of these things. Next, you can only control your reality if you first control yourself. Also a huge one, which I'm actually going to highlight partially for myself, but also partially for you, because the first step to reality control is self-control. So you have to start within and then go without. Next, emotions are secondary. Attitude is primary. So if you're emotional about something, the worst thing you can do is fight with emotions, because as I've explained here, it only makes it worse. The best thing you can do is change your attitude towards the problem. So if, for example, you are very irritated about your results with like a driving test, and I'm saying this because I just saw like a car with a driving lesson pass by. If you are really irritated about the result, the attitude is probably something like I failed, or like I did not pass, or I did not do what I expected, or what I thought was going to happen. If you try to change the emotion, if you try to remove the irritation or try to oppress the irritation, then it's only going to make it worse. However, if you try to change your attitude, so instead you try to say, hey, what could be the advantage of this? Oh, I know, well, it's because maybe next time I'm going to pass it with complete confidence. Next time I'm going to be a lot less nervous because I've already done it once. So all of these things is just about attitude. Maybe another example, if you have a business and you launch a product and no one wants the product, like there are no users that want the product, then you could either say, that sucks, like I have failed, I hate this, which is worse attitude turning into worse emotions, or you can actually say, what's the advantage of this? Well, since I now know that no one wants this, I do know what people don't want. And what's the advantage of knowing what people don't want? Well, maybe the opposite of it could be what they do want. So you invert it and you do find what they want. So attitude is primary, and this is actually a very key one as well. Next, your habits shape your behavior. So I pretty much covered this already, because 90% of your behavior, for most people, once again, for most people, is the subconscious. So you have to build habits that allow you to effectively use your subconscious. Very important, not only physical habits, so like reading, like exercise, like work, but also mental habits, which in my opinion are a lot more important. So awareness at the right time, for example, train yourself to become aware when you have an emotion, to kind of wake up in a sense when you have an emotion, when there's a problem, all of these things. Next, everything in nature has a purpose. So there's a lot of people talking about purpose. I haven't yet looked into it enough or have enough experience with it to really tell you what to do with it or how it works. But what I do know is that everything in nature has a specific purpose. Trees give oxygen and trees receive CO2, carbon dioxide. I don't know, even animals, like animals, for example, bees, they have like very important functions in transferring like nectar and stuff like this. Basically, everything has a purpose, including humans. And it could be interesting for you to explore what your purpose could be. I view it like a system, like a big system where we have all of these natural elements like bees, trees, the sea, the mountains. Everything is interconnected, and then you are here as well, and you have a specific purpose, and you have to find like what is your role in the system. That's how I perceive it. At least what I think I should perceive it as. Next, fighting with emotions makes them worse. I already covered this. What you write and what you speak becomes reality. Really, really cool and essential and important one. So the moment that you write and the moment you speak, you turn thought into action. You are basically intending. And as I explained, intention creates reality. So when you write something, you're declaring an intention. When you speak, you're declaring an intention. So the best thing to do is be careful about what you write and what you speak. Don't write stuff like I'm failing or I'm struggling, because then your reality is going to be failure and struggle. Don't talk about the fact that you're failing or struggling or that things are bad. Speak about things are well. Write about things are well. Write your goals down. It's funny because I had this booklet with all of my goals that I used to look at for a long time, like 6 months, maybe even 8 months. And I used to look at it every day, but I didn't write anything down. Then I started writing specific goals down every morning, and it's crazy that pretty much, I think most of them that were truly my goals have been achieved or were achieved very quickly. So I'm talking about goals like being active. I'm talking about goals like not being stationary and actually developing and acting. Stuff like this, especially like the meta habits, you could say, like the habits that make up your day-to-day reality, were manifested extremely quickly when I wrote them down. Same goes with speaking. So if someone asks you to explain something about yourself or to explain a problem, you have to be careful about how you speak and how you ask for help as well. All of these things. But there's more to be covered. And I'm actually going to definitely bold this because it is quite important. And as you remember, like importance is causing energy blocks. But you don't have to take this to the extreme, which I think is like something which I have here as well. Anyway, we're going to continue. Life is movement. I think I already explained this. So the goal is movement. So people often talk about goals as being like stationary points where you have, for example, like 100K in cash or like 100K a month. And sure, these are like money goals, so I'm personally not a big fan of these, but you can set this goal. But you have to understand that like an actual goal is movement. So you won't be happy with this because life is movement. So even if you have like a big house, if you just had the house but you weren't allowed to move in the house, like would you be happy? No. If you just had like a specific amount of money or like a specific motorcycle or a car, it's probably not going to make you happy, because even in this reality where you do have this object, it's still going to be a moving reality. You're still going to have to go to bed and like wash yourself and stuff like this. So understand that goals are also movement. You have to, or you can envision your life as a moving movie. Does it make sense? And your goal is also going to be a moving movie, but just a different one. Next, to wake up, ask yourself questions. So to become aware, you don't have to meditate. You can ask yourself questions. Examples are where I am now, what is my state, what am I thinking, am I creating problems, is this really true, what's actually happening, who am I really? I'm just giving you examples off the top of my head. But just asking questions raises your awareness. It doesn't necessarily matter what questions you ask, as long as you just ask critical questions about the situation. You're going to solve a lot of problems that you didn't expect or really know you could. So really be critical. Ask critical questions. Don't ask what's going on. Ask what's really going on here, and you'll find the answer quicker. Next, your self-worth has nothing to do with your income. I learned this pretty much a lot of times, but your self-worth has nothing to do with your income, because otherwise your income, if it's tied to your self-worth, it means that if your income declines, your self-worth declines, and it's kind of a problematic situation, because income cannot necessarily be 100% controlled. Even if there's a job, even if there's a business, if your clients stop paying you, if you get fired, then your self-worth is essentially down, and that's very bad. So I wouldn't recommend associating self-worth with income or looking at other people. If you see someone that makes 100K a month, don't be surprised if you are in some areas more developed than this person, because self-worth is not about money. So even Elon Musk has accomplished a lot, is a very wealthy man, but his self-worth has nothing to do with his achievements or income. I am just as worthy as Elon Musk. You are just as worthy as Elon Musk. You're just as worthy as me. Like, we're all worthy. That's the point. It's nothing to do with achievements or income. Next, your mind needs to be given a solid reason to do something. And my mind loves reasoning. So give it solid reasons to do stuff, to do habits. Don't just try and build the habit of going to the gym. Explain to yourself, like, why do I want to go to the gym? Well, it's because I want to stay active, I want to stay moving. Life is movement, so I have to keep moving. My muscles have to keep being exercised, because what is not used atrophies. I want to become a strong physique. I want to have a strong physique, or have a strong muscular physique, because it's going to allow me to look the best, feel the best. I'm going to love myself. All of these reasons, you have to just give them yourself to do something. Another one, even with waking up, I literally tell myself, like, you need to become aware in specific situations, because it's going to allow you to act more effectively in these situations, and a lot of problems can be avoided. Next, judgment of others is projected insecurity of yourself. I have this one in relationships as well, but I'm just quickly going to cover it. If you judge someone else, for example, for being fat, then you are basically afraid of being fat. There's no other reason, because your reality is pretty much a reflection of what's going on inside of you. So if you start feeling stuff about other people, it's usually just a reflection of yourself. If other people, by the way, this is also invertible. So if other people judge you, then they are projecting their insecurity. So this works two ways for everyone. So if you judge people who are poor, you are afraid of being poor. If you judge people for being fat, you're afraid of being fat. If you judge people for being diligent, you are either afraid of being diligent or you think that you yourself are too diligent. You're not secure about the fact that you're very diligent. All of these things. Very important one, because it literally reveals so much about yourself. Like if you are unsure what's going on inside of your mind, look to how you interact with other people and what happens with your feelings. Next, results come from pure intention, action without words. I really enjoy this because when you are in the flow, it's usually because you don't have thoughts. So you're like so engrossed in the work, you're not even thinking, just acting. Stuff is going by itself. It's just easy. And that's when things are truly fun. And that happens when you are in a state of pure intention, which basically means action without words. That's the main, I could say this is one of the main points, like pure intention. Let me just really quickly, I'm also going to bold this one. But pure intention is really key because life is really not positive or negative. The mind makes these up. Life is really just existing. So if you are acting in accordance with this, then you're going to achieve results. So if you stop desiring, fearing, if you stop thinking about stuff, if you stop analyzing if it's positive or negative, and you just do it, you just act, you just put the thought into action without thinking, without giving it a label, without judging, without analyzing, results are going to come. Next, copy other people's state. So if you have trouble seeing yourself as a very worthy, self-esteemed, confident individual, you can copy other people's states. I actually do this with Kanye West because I think he has a really unconditional, pure self-esteem. So I think, to be fair, that he's probably one of the most self-confident people. It almost seems like he can say anything and he doesn't care what other people think at all. So I'm just copying this. And I don't know, I'm not trying to copy him, become like him, but just take this self-esteem of his and implement it. Another one is James Bond, literally because he has such a pure intention. So if you watch the movies, he just acts. He just gets the mission done, and that's it. And I'm copying that as well. I'm actually going to write it down because I think it's fun. Next, signs are not commands. So for you, those of you who are a little bit more, you could say, spiritually advanced, signs can happen, synchronicities. You might be familiar with the term synchronicity more than sign. These are not commands. So these are not instructions. They are probably something else. They can be instructions. They're basically just very ambiguous. So it's best to trust your own heart and your own mind, more your heart, that you know the right thing to do and you know what the signs mean. Because otherwise you can get a little bit thrown around because you're like, I'm seeing this sign, but I'm not sure what it is. And if I follow it, then it's chaos. Next, everything is simple. So very funnily enough, I was just rambling about signs, but even signs are simple. Signs is just something that catches your attention and is not a command, is not something, it's just like a very simple hint. The same with problems. All problems have simple solutions. All goals are simple. A goal is just a reality in at another time in the future. Nothing about life is necessarily complicated or magical. It's just simple. Now, and by the way, I don't even know how many I have. I just have a few more. Next, set big goals, but be realistic in your pursuit. So people like Elon Musk are very ambitious, but very realistic. So the reason that they're able to achieve, I think, such great results is because they set huge, ambitious goals, like moving people to Mars, but then they're actually realistic in their pursuit. So they start thinking, okay, what do we need? How close are we to achieving this? They set objectives and they get the stuff done. So I think that's a good philosophy. Next, there are no problems. So this is also a very important one. I'm actually going to highlight everything is simple because that is truly an important one. There are no problems is also an important one. So you have to understand that there are really no problems. Like if you truly objectively look at what you think are problems, they don't exist. They're just creations of the mind, of the future or the past. So if you think that you are poor and have no money, is it really true? Right now, do you not have enough to do what you are doing right now? Probably not. It's strange to explain this with words. It's more something you have to become aware of. But there are actually no problems in reality right now. It's tricky to explain, but there's only a problem because you think there's a problem. You only think that money is a problem because you see money as a problem. But objectively, there are no problems. Even stuff like health. People would perceive this as a problem, but why? Like, even if you have quote unquote poor health, like, is it a problem? Like, a problem? It's tricky to explain. Next, follow the impulse of the soul. This is similar to the heart, but it's not the same. It is the spirit, it is the soul, and it kind of already knows what you need to do to self-actualize, which some people say is the kind of goal of this life. So following this, in my opinion, is quite beneficial. Next, the absence of bad is more important than the presence of good. So if you have trouble with doubt, don't try to obtain massive confidence, but try to get rid of the doubt. If you are facing a lot of resistance, then as I explained earlier with the brake analogy and the gas, don't try to put the more power on the gas, but try to actually remove the brake, or try to step your foot off of the brake. That's going to be much more efficient. It's just much more efficient to focus on the absence of bad than the presence of good, especially if there is a lot of bad, in my experience. Next, you're not your body, your thoughts, your feelings, your past, your future. You are not your present either. So you're not all of these things. You are your attention, as we already explained. So whenever you think you have a problem with your body, with your thoughts, with your feelings, with your past, with your future, with your present, understand it's not really you. As soon as you say I am, you identify yourself with it, and you have pretty much locked yourself onto it. And we continue with the last few points. Old goals and old habits can lag in your current reality. So if you have set a goal in the past, then thoughts and opportunities might arise from this old goal in your current reality. Same with habits. If you had the habit of overeating in the past, then thoughts about eating are probably still going to happen in the current reality. You have to kind of see it through, because there's this thing called inertia, where something continues for a period of time, and it's not stopped automatically. So something doesn't come in motion by itself. That's like the first thing. But when something gains momentum, there's something, I think it's also called inertia, where basically something that is in motion remains in motion unless it's stopped by a force acting upon it. So obviously goals and habits kind of have a bit of delay as well, which is a good one. All you need is love, the next one. So what I mean is, like, I think a lot of people have done research to this, and there's the whole movement of like sacred geometry, and I don't remember exactly the name, but there's this guy, I think, called, what was he called? I don't remember, but he basically discovered the solfeggio frequencies and like 528 and all of this stuff. And what I personally think is that consciousness or energy, basically the universal substance that everything consists out of, I think that is love. So I think the frequency of awareness, or like awareness itself, might be love. These concepts are pretty weird to explain in words, so I'll just leave that to the spiritual people, but just a lesson. Next, give to receive, and give much to receive much. So I noticed that whenever I give, either in recording this video, and that was actually the motivation for recording this huge video, to be honest, because I felt like giving this information to people, hopefully they pick up on something. So if you want to give much, if you want to receive much, you just give much. Because that's how the universe works. The universe is like a mirror. So if you want to receive, you first have to give. And then as a result, the mirror gives you what you want. All oppression is caused by feeling like you're controlled by an external force. This is like, what the hell? BW, how did you put this in here? But what I mean is, like, if you fear something, or if you're anxious, or if you desire something, truly at the root of this oppression is feeling like you're controlled by something else. Because think about it. If you fear, for example, public speaking, it's probably because you fear rejection, or you fear something happening which hasn't really happened, or judgment. But truly, like, this is because you think that you will be judged. But the underlying cause of this fear is not because you think you'll be judged, but it's because you fear that something is going to happen which you don't expect, if that makes sense. So you fear something happening which you cannot control. You fear that people will laugh. But the thing is, if you know that you were able to control your reality and you were able to control the reactions, then there was no fear. So the fear only exists because you think something will happen that will gain control over you. And this is a tricky one to explain as well, but also applies to anxiety. So if you are anxious about something, it means you're anxious not because the event is scary, but because you think that something is going to control you as well. Next, stop the blame. You caused your entire life so far. So you are obviously your attention. So it means that your actions are probably not fully yours up until this point, but it doesn't mean that there was no involvement from you. You cannot blame your body or your actions or your thoughts or your environment or money. You cannot blame these things. They probably did cause your life so far, so this is maybe not true, but you cannot blame them. You can take back control. Next, anything taken to the extreme will become its opposite. Huge one. I'm actually going to bold this as well. So if you take anything to the extreme, whether it's like desire or like a specific hobby, or I'm just mentioning anything at this point, anything taken to its extreme, a philosophy, I don't know, like a business model, like people's opinions, anything taken to the extreme, or exercise. If you take exercise to the extreme, you probably have to rest. If you take sleep to the extreme and you don't sleep at all, you probably have to sleep for weeks or like for days to catch up on it. So essentially, that anything taken to its extreme will become opposite. It's a huge, powerful lesson that kind of explains balance. So balance has to be there. If there's no balance, then balance has to be restored. So it's important to be as balanced as possible in many things. Next, forgiveness is the last remedy to feeling down. So if you really feel that you're not worthy, if you feel that things suck, then what I've personally experienced is that forgiveness usually does so well, because you're like, I just forgive myself. You know, what happened, that's completely fine, but I forgive myself. And yeah, man, that's cool. It's like unconditional forgiveness, unconditional love. Some people are religious, some people are spiritual, some people are not. But I think that there is a universal presence of something people call God that is always unconditionally forgiving and loving. Even if you do sinful things, you will be forgiven. I think that. Next, prevention is better than cure. It's kind of strange why this one, which is just like a seemingly normal one, only appears here. But it's a very powerful one, because problems are better prevented than cured. Anything is better prevented than cured. The whole reason why people have traumas and a lot of psychological problems is because they were caused. But if they didn't have those problems, then obviously their life would be a lot easier. So it's not about necessarily curing psychological disease, for example, but it's about preventing it. It's about, for example, if you like go to jail, this is a strange example, but if you go to jail, for example, then there's probably going to be some experiences in jail that will cause mental health problems. But so the best thing to do is not solve those mental health problems or try to figure out how to solve the problems, but just not go to jail. Same with business. If you, for example, you are thinking about solving a problem of, I don't know, like trying to get customers to pay you twice as much for, I don't even know where I'm going with this. Let me just go to the next one. Suppressed emotions can turn into physical illness. So if you have a specific emotion or a specific belief that you suppress enough, then eventually it can turn into physical illness. And this is quite serious. So definitely keep this in mind, that this can be very serious. But if an emotion or belief is suppressed, is not looked at, is not acknowledged, is not it doesn't have to be accepted, but it has to be acknowledged. Like, okay, I see you, I know you exist. It's completely fine, and I choose to let you go. That's a process. There's a book, Letting Go, by David Hawkins, I think. Letting Go. David Hawkins, that's very effective in this. Then the body is going to kind of take over this emotion. So what I think is that the mind is basically kind of the boss, and well, not really, because you are the final boss, you are the attention. But then there's the mind, then there's the body. So the body is basically a consequence of the mind, in a sense. So your mental state reflects in your body as well. And suppressed emotions are obviously going to manifest if you don't look at them until you're forced to look at them. Anyway, go your own way. This is also a huge one, like in anything. Whenever I found myself too clamped to one philosophy, was usually best to just take a look and let go of it and try to just go my own way in what I was doing. So in business, this applies as well. Don't just copy what other people are doing, like do your own thing. In art, just draw what you want to draw. You are unique for a reason. We covered this before. And the best thing to do is indulge in your uniqueness. All right, next, all fears are illusions. And these are big ones, by the way. Like, go your own way. Like, it seems trivial, but it's huge. Like, following other people is going to never get you better results than them. The best results are going to come when you step out of line and go your own way. Next, all fears are illusions. So, huge one as well. Like, if you fear, for example, public speaking, it's an illusion. It's only a feeling that makes you fear it, because at the end of the day, objectively, it's not scary. It's not, you cannot prove that public speaking is scary. It's just a feeling. Same with fear of poverty, fear of death. Same with desire even. So desire for something is an illusion, because objectively there's nothing worse or better about it. So all of these emotions and fears especially are illusions. Next, end the battle. So a lot of people, they strive to achieve goals as if they have to overcome some form of battle. But this battle is also unnecessary. So in the same way the emotions are unnecessary, the battle is unnecessary. You don't necessarily need money to achieve goals, or the money is not the goal even. You don't need to struggle. You don't need to work hard to achieve goals, because none of these beliefs really matter. Like, if you just acted without worrying about battling, you just acted and that was it. Like, there was no baggage, there was no emotional baggage, no struggle, no limiting beliefs, then there wouldn't be any problems. Like, genuinely, like, most of the battle that you experience is created by the mind. And finally, energy flows when there's movement and intention. So if you are moving towards a goal, and you have a goal and you're moving towards the goal, and there's intention, then there's energy. If there's no movement towards any goal, there's no energy. And when there's no energy, there's no life. All right. So these are pretty much all of the principles when it comes to life. I don't even know how many I had, but I definitely have 26, as many as the alphabet. Then I have another 26, because that's obviously here. So that's 26, 26. Then I have another one, 26. So 3 times 26 plus 6. Let me actually just really quickly look this up. 84. So I covered 84 life principles. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you took something away from this. I just wanted to put this out to give some of my knowledge, because I believe these lessons are incredibly valuable, but yeah, people just need to know about them. So it might not be the best production quality or communication, but I don't really care. I hope that anyone is going to benefit from any lesson, and then I've done my job correctly. So I hope you enjoyed it, and looking forward to seeing you in the next one.